Fala galera do Mundo Mágico, here's me again with another video. This one I just wanna put out there. I know it's very early to discuss this, to talk about it, but I wanna just put out there before anybody says, oh, somebody has said this before, somebody, had this idea before, or had this information before. So I just wanna put out there before anybody say otherwise. Just because somebody else has had the same idea that you or anybody else, it doesn't mean that the person is the only one that has claimed this idea. But anyways, this is about Fantastic Beasts 3. I do not know if they have a title yet for that movie, but the interesting thing is that it's gonna be in Rio, and I'm just putting out there that I'm pretty sure there are solid locations that they're gonna be using for this movie, just because there are iconic places that every time you think about Rio de Janeiro, you think about those locations. But since the story of the movie goes around the 1930s, around that time, so there are many other places that probably will be major during the shootings there in Rio de Janeiro, or they might not be shooting Rio de Janeiro, this specific scenes from buildings from that time in history, but they probably gonna be using pretty much what they have seen and researched from that period of time. But Rio de Janeiro is very iconic, and they have very old buildings. They were there around the 1930s, and I do not know, maybe they might be using the real locations and be there in Rio. But first of all, I'm pretty sure that they're gonna use Christ Redeemer statue, because that's gonna be major, because that's iconic, and it would produce amazing scenes. The visuals will be amazing if they do the shootings from the top of the Christ Redeemer statue. And as far as I know, very few people have had access to the top of the statue. Normally when you go to Rio de Janeiro to see the statue, it will just be at the bottom, and normally you will see only the feet at your level, and you can see the statue high above. But normally you don't have access to go up to to check out things from above. So there have been, even in Brazilian shows, you have had very few people having access to that area to actually do some scenes in there, because for sure it's not safe to be up there. But who knows, they might have like an interesting shooting from the arms of. I've seen this happening just once in my lifetime, so in a show. So we'll see if they're gonna be doing that for Fantastic Beasts 3. But it will be very interesting to have scenes in there. About the Christ Redeemer statue, I think they're gonna use the location and you have an interesting plot because of the position of the statue, because it has like Christ with open arms, and pretty much makes the shape of the South Cross constellation, as we have seen in previous videos that I comment about that theory, because it's pretty much in the ceiling of the dome of the French Minister of Magic, the swords, the sword, the South Cross constellation, and also the Latin saying there that says that they're gonna be going to the southern hemisphere, and they were gonna be looking to the celestial spheres, meaning they're gonna be looking into the skies. So they're gonna be looking for constellations in the southern hemisphere when they go to Brazil, probably. So because of that, I think that the culminating point, the climax of the story, will be all in the Christ stature, because of the shape of the stature, as the South Cross constellation, and it will have a major importance in the plot of the Fantastic Beasts 3 movie. Also, the second location that I think they're gonna be using is the Maracanã Stadium, which is not very popular in Brazil anymore, but it's still very popular around the world. When they talk about Rio de Janeiro, people normally will think about Carnival, the Christ statue, and Maracanã Stadium. It's not right now that interesting and the prime in Brazil, because it has not been taken care of. It's very old, very outdated, so it needs to be renovated. So there are better stadiums in Brazil and even in Rio, so we don't care much about that, but that would give a good excuse to use that as part of the story. If you think about Quidditch, and if you think about they using the stadium for a friendly Quidditch match, not for a Quidditch match World Cup, because probably this didn't happen at that year that the story is gonna happen. But you know how it works for World Cup, right? You have to qualify to be able to play in the World Cup. And perhaps that's what happened in there. There was a game, to qualify to get into the World Cup, for Quidditch. And they used the Maracanã Stadium, and it wasn't in a good condition, but they actually, the Wizard World used it at the stadium in a bad condition, just leave it in a bad condition, so people would not want to use it. So the Wizard World would be able to use it for that specific, event in the Wizard World. I don't know. So that's just an idea out there. These two places probably will play a major point in there, because Quidditch makes sense in the sense that everybody is driven to go to Brazil. There's a reason for everybody to go to Brazil, and have the story happening there. But because like Grindelwald, we know that he's gonna go there just because of Constellation, and he has the book in his hideout there, and we know that he has he's looking for information from from constellations, and Newt could have a reason to be there just because of the amazing Fantastic Beasts there in there. But the rest of the cast of the movie, it would be kind of odd to make a reason for everybody to be in Brazil. So I think Quidditch might be playing Quidditch might have some importance in the story there, and that's why they will be having a Quidditch match, and they're gonna be using the Maracanã. They're gonna be using the Maracanã Stadium for a Quidditch match. Another place that I think it might be also included in the upcoming movie is either Copacabana or Ipanema Beach in Brazil, just because we saw some images of mermaids in the dome of the French Minister of Magic in Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald. And the ocean in Brazil has so many richness in terms of magical creatures and lore and legends and folklore in Brazil, because it has a major importance in Brazilian culture. So we believe in you have seen this in previous videos of mine, that Brazilians believe that mermaids are like godlike entities. So they will bring at the end of the year, in the new year celebrations, they will bring offerings, food, and put in little boats for the goddess of the ocean, which is represented by a mermaid. And also we have the lures of the pink dolphin, or as we call it, the boto. So which is a man that at night, which is a dolphin that at night turns into a man and comes and walks in the shore. And if you want more information, you can watch some of my previous videos about what the sort of being do in Brazilian folklore. It doesn't do something very nice, but it's something that it's very interesting and is intriguing, because it always brings this sensuality from the Latino culture, from Brazilian culture, and so it's very attractive, and although the boto doesn't do nice things, actually it's a cute story. It's a cute folklore that we have in Brazil. But yeah, so that's why I think that we're gonna have scenes, and probably we're gonna see at least mermaids in the story as being some characters in this upcoming movie. So Copacabana Beach or Ipanema or any other beach will be playing, will be shown during the upcoming movie. Another location that I think it's gonna be major, and it's gonna produce amazing scenes, and I hope they do that, because it's gonna be this action-packed scene if they decided to go with this idea, is the cable cars, the Sugarloaf cable cars in Rio de Janeiro. It's beautiful, and so there is this cable car that will just go through, take you from one point to another in the air. So it's a kind of a trolley that's transported through a cable in the air, and I think it's gonna be amazing for battle scenes, like spells exchange, and I can picture like a bunch of tourists trapped in the cable car, and Grindelwald trying to attack them, and Newt, or even perhaps Dumbledore, going there and trying to protect this muggles or non-magical people in Brazil. And the scene is gonna be packed with suspense and action. So I hope they do some scene of the sort there, because it's gonna be amazing, and the view from there is amazing. So because you can see the beach from the cable car, that space, so it's gonna be amazing to have it done. And so this is another thing that I think that they totally gonna do it, and especially because this I was researching, And I know that this cable cars were there even at that time in the 1930s, and so it was a mean of transportation from one point to another. And so it's gonna be a really cool scene to be seen in this this upcoming movie. Many other iconic places that they're gonna probably shoot some scenes. If they want, they're probably gonna reproduce that in England in their studios, because if you want to do a shooting of 1930s, Rio de Janeiro is the right place to be at. I'm not from Rio in Brazil, I'm from São Paulo, another town, but when I visit Rio, back on the time that I was living there, I was amazed that Rio had so many old buildings that were so well preserved. So it's worth it doing the scenes in there, because the buildings have been there even before the 1930s and they still well preserved. Some of them we just heard, like I think it was last year, probably in the beginning of the year, that one of the oldest libraries that had like amazing collection caught on fire, so which was sad. It was one of the oldest buildings in Rio, but most of the buildings in Rio are well preserved, the old ones. And because Rio was was once the capital of Brazil, and two, is a major port of entrance, so you know, there's lots of history there. There's lots of old buildings. Some of the places that they have there are the old cathedral, the municipal theater there. They also have this iconic sidewalks that you're only gonna see in Rio and Brazil, which have these wavy shapes, black and white, which probably gonna have some scenes in there, because it's worth it, you know, having image of that space. It's unique to Rio de Janeiro. You don't have anywhere else that replicated. Perhaps they're gonna be shooting scenes on the favelas in Brazil, because Brazil has a very different setup from other parts of the world. Like here in US, normally rich people will prefer to live in isolated places like hills and mountains and high places. In Brazil, it's the opposite. Rich people live in apartment buildings, especially in Rio. Lots of people be living in apartments, and then on the hills they will have this big favelas, you know, going up. Which favela, if you do not know what I'm talking about, is a place where people who are low income live, and they just build, you know, themselves, or in between friends, they just build their own houses there, which they call the little barracos, and they build, you know, one next to the other. And since the geography of Rio is like that, they will build in hills, so it starts from the bottom and keeps on going up. And this kind of setup is unique to Brazil, because normally here in US you will see, you know, people that wanted to have a privacy, you know, paying big money should just get this big space in a high on the mountain or in a hill, and building a big property there, you know, so they can, you know, keep their privacy and keeping a quiet space without like that many neighbors making noises. In Brazil, it's opposite. It's the opposite. You have like this bunch of people packed, living one next to the other, you know, in this hillside, and so it's a very interesting dynamic. So, and I would love to see scenes perhaps in those hills in the favelas. So and I think they might do something like that in the upcoming movie. And if you ask me if in the 1930s there were places like that, yes, there were places like that. They have always been there. So they could have other names, you know, the setups probably look a little bit different, but you know, people always found a way to find a place to live there in Rio. That's how it works there. So that's another thing that we might be seeing. And I would like to see also two other things in the upcoming movie. Perhaps because they have sandcastles competitions at the beach, so I hope they might have something like that in the upcoming movie. And also because there's sculptures that they do in with sand there at the beaches are just amazing. And also I'm crossing my fingers to see the caiporas, or as we call it, the curupiras, in this upcoming movie. I know that they are mainly in the Amazon, according to J.K. Rowling's description of this fantastic creature in Brazil, and that they protect Castelo Bruxo school there, the wizard school in Brazil. But I would love to see some caiporas or curupiras in the upcoming movie, just because as a child that was one of my favorite folkloric characters in Brazil, the curupira, because it was just a magical being. Oh, I already talked about that in previous videos, but it was this magical being that protected the forests and the animals, and he tricked people to go in the opposite direction where the animals were because his feet is inverted. So, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, our logo for our channel is a curupira or a caipora, according to how J.K. Rowling called this folkloric being from Brazil. And that was a friend of mine from college times that drew. She's an excellent artist, and she was the one who drew the curupira concept. And if you wanna any art, you know, project from her, I can post below in the description, so you can order art from her, and she's really good. I love the work that she does. So, and she's Brazilian, but she lives in Japan, so you can imagine, because she's well versed also in the comics, you know, graphics and this kind of thing. So and we went to college together in Hawaii, so some of her art has lots of Pacific Islands and Polynesian influence as well. So if you need any art, you know, related to any of those cultures or anything, because it's beautiful what she does, just, you know, contact her, and her contact information will be below. Yeah, so that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoy it, and leave in your comments what places you would like to see in the upcoming Fantastic Beasts 3 movie, and if you agree with me or not with the locations that I think that they're gonna have scenes for the upcoming movie. So comment below, and please subscribe to my channel, give it a like, and share with your friends. Our channel is not sponsored by anybody, so the only way to keep the channel going is with your likes, with your subscription, and also your opinion helps to make this channel better. So comment below. So for today, that's all. And so for today's always, and ciao ciao.